We're going to bring on a two-time World Series champion, a Olympic gold medalist. Ed Sprague, the director of player development, joins us once again here on A's Cast Live. Ed, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Chris. How are you?
I'm doing good. And I got to think a lot of attention on Midland tonight. Gage Jump going to be going in Midland. Vries in his second game. How much are all eyes on Midland right now?
I'd say quite a bit. Yeah, I was there last week, and Jump looked good, and then I went to Lansing to see Leo, and of course moved him from there. So it's exciting time. They haven't played well in the second half after winning the first half, so they got to kind of gear back up for their playoff run into September.
Well, obviously, you were a big part of the decision about Leo going from Lansing to Midland, going from high A to double A. He's 18 years old. I keep trying to say to people, if he was born in this country, he would have just graduated from high school. He potentially could have been the number one overall pick in the draft, where then you guys would have sent him down to Arizona, and who knows where he'd be right now. But right now, he's 18 years old in double A. Talk about moving him up and why you guys did it.
Yeah, I mean, there was some talk. We had conversations. I talked to the Padres player development people after we traded them, and their kind of track that he was going to be on with them, and they certainly had some ideas. They were probably going to move him up. Getting to know him, I think he's very mature. His game is very good. The physical skills are there. There's a lot to clean up on. Just the small details of the game. That most young kids have to get used to. And just positioning and using the positioning card nowadays, cutoffs and relays, a lot of that stuff. So, but he's a special talent, and I just don't think. I'm surprised that he was only hitting 250, but the swing is beautiful from both sides of the plate. And I just, in talking to David, I think the time was right to get him up there. We have Gregorio Petit, who was a, longtime major league shortstop, Latin speaker. Felt like it's a really good spot for his development to continue.
I mean, is it hard for you just to fathom at times? I mean, thinking about your career, I mean, you'd be at Stanford right now as a freshman, and this kid's playing in double A.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that he didn't even spend any time in the Dominican or in the Arizona League, he went right to right to California League as a 17-year-old is pretty impressive. And then to move him up again to high A. So he's obviously ahead of the curve for most guys, but he's been talented since the day people saw him back in 2020, and he's continued on that track. So I'm excited for him. Like I said, there's some maturity there on the field that's well beyond his years.
When you watch him play, what makes you go, wow?
Well, I like to look at the on-deck swings, it gives me an indication of how guys look. His swing in the on-deck circle is exactly like his swing in the game. Some guys' on-deck circle swing is a reminder of what they're trying to do, swing down the ball or swing up on the ball. His is just perfect balance. His lower half is balance. He talks about his lower half balance. He sees the ball really well. His takes are really good, and that's a good indication of how you're seeing the ball. He takes to the zone. He can check off pitches. And it's very similar from both sides. I mean, I saw him probably a little more from the left than I did the right. Not that I've seen a ton, but it looks good. I joked to David. I said, you may have just traded for Juan Soto. So, I hope that brings out to be true. And I know that's high praise on the kid, but in a small sample size, there was certainly a lot to like.
Like everybody's been trying. We all love to play the comp business. What's the comp to this guy? And I got asked that on our pregame show on NBC yesterday, and I said, you know what the reality is? He's 6'1", 185. And I was just talking about it before you came on. 18 years old, 6'1", 185 reminds me of what most freshman wide receivers going into D1 football or defensive backs. That's pretty much how they're built. And then you grow a little bit, you gain the size, you gain the strength. So, I mean, he'll be over 190 at some point, probably 195. Who knows how big he gets, maybe 200. He's a good-sized kid, and I'm thinking switch hitter. I don't know what a comp is for him, and I don't think there needs to be one. Just, talk about the ability to switch hit, too, because we always talk to Jed Lowry about how you got to maintain both swings. At both swings, it's hard to say both swings are the same. Talk about the difference between him swinging right-handed and left-handed.
Yeah, I mean, right-handed is his natural side, and you obviously get less reps there. He does say he feels more comfortable. Like I said, the development for the Padres, they were torn whether he was a better right-handed hitter or left-handed hitter. The swing looks very similar from both sides. His hands are a little bit lower from the left side, a little bit higher from the right side. It looks like he has a tendency to chase the pitch up right-handed a little bit more, but he still fouls it off. But the bat speed and the balance are equally the same. I think his splits, I haven't dug into his splits, but I think they're probably a little bit better left-handed. That's mostly because he gets more reps there. So it's hard to be a switch hitter, and play up the middle, but it's exciting to have an 18-year-old like this in AA and see where it goes. But you're right. It's not fair to comp the kid at all. Let him play. I think he knows he's a big leaguer. He's going to be a big leaguer. At what point that happens, who knows? Like I said, there's some stuff to clean up on the defensive side, and not from a skill standpoint. He's got a great arm. He's got great hands. He's got great feet. But I think just, he's 18. So just paying attention, pre-pitch, moving with the ball, doing little things like that.
Yeah, a lot of people immediately came out with Francisco Lindor, who obviously is a great player, but he's bigger than Lindor. I mean, and
he has room to grow. It's a body that's going to, like you said, he can put on weight, 10 pounds, 15 pounds real easy and not notice.
Just tell our fans, when you were talking to the Padres guys, how sad they are to lose Leo.
Well, they loved him, that's for sure. There was some talk that they thought that if they didn't trade him, they might even call him to the big leagues and throw him in left field for the remainder of the year because he was a better option than they had at the time. That's how highly they felt about him. So, obviously they pushed their chips in the table for Mason, and we were lucky to come out, with Leo on his side.
No, that's it. I mean, cannot be excited, no question. We've now started to talk a lot about jump. And you're starting to see, and there's a great article today, and we have Stephen Nesbitt on a little bit later. He did an article in The Athletic, talked about, look at left-handed pitching right now in baseball. It is amazing how left-handers have really, as human beings and great athletes do, they adapt. And now that left-handers have gotten used to seeing all right-handed lineups, lefties are throwing with more velocity than ever before. Lefties have more pitches than ever before. It used to be everything was just you went fastball away, changeup away. You stayed away from righties and you dominated left-handers. But now these lefties have weapons, right? They've got fastballs that they're bringing in on right-handers. They've got sliders, cutters, sweepers. They're attacking different parts of the zone to right-handers. The evolution of the left-handed pitcher in the last few years, I'm sure you've been seeing it, and Jump looks like one of those guys.
Yeah, and he's got that different look, that's kind of been, everybody's been after lately. He's got that little bit lower slot with the cut ride fastball and then, the breaking ball and the changeup and the cutter and the sweeper. He's got 5 pitches he throws for strikes. He's going to be a good one. We took his innings. He backed him down a little bit in the middle of the year, right around the All-Star break, to make sure he could finish the season on track with his innings limit. And he wasn't happy about that at all, but he kind of understood, and he feels better than ever. So hopefully he'll continue to stay healthy, and you're going to probably see him in the big leagues. I don't want to say very soon, but I wouldn't be surprised that at some point next year he's in Sacramento.
Whether we're talking about Lopez at the big league level, Arnold, who you just drafted out of Florida State, seeing these guys, kind of the 3 quarters, and we know more about biomechanics than ever before. There's some people who've done a lot more medical school than I'll ever do will say that it's better for the arm to have a slot down here than way up traditionally like we were all taught. Have you studied that? And we're starting to see, obviously, back in the day, we used to call these guys slingers. They used to be called slingers. Now we're hearing this might be what's best for the shoulder and the elbow.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, that lower slot where the ball appears to go up in the zone, which exposes right-handers and left-handers to their swing up there. Visually, the ball's staying on plane a lot longer. So we have ways to measure that. So I think you can look at that as you're acquiring these players in the draft or in trades. So I think you look into those different type of looks that's different to the hitter's eyes, that the perception value of what you think the ball is going to do and what it's actually doing is different. And so I think that's kind of the outlier nowadays is what those numbers provide is what does the hitter think it's going to do and what is it actually doing? And that provides the slight advantage to those pitchers.
I want to give a lot of love to Fran Reardon and his group down there with the Las Vegas Aviators, because we have now seen multiple guys come up, struggle, they go back down. Seems like they've got a good system to get guys back on track, to send them back up. Just talk about what they've been doing with the Las Vegas Aviators, are really helping players. And one guy we're looking at right now, hopefully getting back on track, is Zach Gellof.
Yeah, well, you got a lot of experience. I mean, Fran's been managing a long time, all the way back to when he was an independent ball. So he knows how to handle different types of personalities. And, you get a lot of that. You get young kids coming up, you get disgruntled guys coming down, trying to find their way back there. And so he set up a very good atmosphere for everybody to kind of thrive in that. And he gives them their space, and then they come to them. And, of course, you have Paul Abbott, longtime, major league pitcher and pitching coach, that's done a very good job down there. And then Brian McCarn, who's been in our system for years and has had a lot of these guys at different levels, and does a great job with, working with Bushy at the major league level to get these guys back on track like Zach.
We talk about some of these young players. I mean, it's like we forget about Gellof. And when we first came up, I was like, God, if I have a comp, he looked like Ryan Sandberg. He had size, he had power, he had speed, he could drive the ball out of the ballpark to right center. And then it's just been a lot of struggles for him to make contact. We know he's on a heater right now, right? We just saw a walk-off home run. He's in a bunch of home runs right now. What difference are you seeing in Zach Gellof so we can get him back up here?
Yeah, I mean, you look years ago, we were talking about this was Zach Gellof's team, right? He was the young guy leading this young group moving forward. And, we had a tough year last year, and he tried to make some changes in the offseason that didn't really work. And then he had the injury. So I think the biggest thing is it looks like he's narrowed up a little bit. He's standing a little bit taller. He's working downhill a little bit more, not as much uphill. And it's starting to pay off. We know he's got the talent. We know he's got the ability to drive the ball out to all parts of the ballpark. And I know Vegas skews that for some people looking at that, but he's still hitting the ball hard, and 7 home runs this week against one team. And that's a pretty good week for him. And he's always been a good defender and continuing to hone his craft there. So, I think Zach will be back soon. He's too good of a player to hold down.
Let's end on this. And I'm just so impressed by Tyler Soderstrom and the young man that's growing in front of our eyes. We had him on immediately when he was drafted. We know his dad. I played against his dad in college. His dad got a chance to play for the Giants. He was a first-round pick, so he grew up in this world. And then the athletics take him in the first round as a catcher, but we watched him kind of grow out of catcher, and he started figuring out first base. And all of a sudden, here's Nick Kurtz. And it's like, hey, we need your bat. Will you go out and play left field? And he said, no problem. And to be not selfish and switch positions. He's got the longest hitting streak in baseball right now. He's putting up numbers that you go for a full season for a 23-year-old. That's some really, really good stuff. Just how impressed have you been with him and watching him mature as a young player and a young man?
Yeah, we got him as an 18-year-old at the alt site, right? And he came up with all those guys around him. He was just a very young kid, I don't want to say immature, but he was immature in terms of the game, and obviously he played very well. We could always knew he could hit, right? And hitting was always going to be ahead of the catching, but we knew he could still catch. He struggled when he went to Lansing that second year, and it was freezing cold, and he was hitting $160, and he said, I don't want to catch anymore. And I'm like, man, you have a golden ticket, left-handed hitting catcher. You got to stay with it. He's like, I could play shortstop in the big leagues. I'm like, come on, Tyler. He's like, I can play anywhere. I can play left. I'm like, well, yeah, you could probably stand out there. And here he is. He's playing in incredible left field. So I got to apologize. I would have got that one wrong. He's proved to me that he's a much better athlete than maybe we thought when we first got him. He's played an outstanding left field, and good for him, for the unselfishness to go out there and play left for the good of the team. And like I said, we've watched him grow up in front of our eyes.
Let's end on this. How important is it, because you had a terrific career, obviously 2-time World Series champion, what you did in college at Stanford, a decorated career. How much are all your experiences that you went through as a player that you now can give to these young players who may have crazy ideas, right? They're kids, and they might, and you got, wait a minute, let me tell you, I've been through this. I've done that. This is what's best. How important have your experiences been for helping these young men put them on the right track to get them to the big leagues?
Yeah, you just try to relay, not only your own experiences, but experiences you've seen with other players you may have played with, or now the players that we've had in the system. I've been here, back 10 years, different types of guys that have been up and down, Schumann's a great story that, got bumped off his position, had to change positions. And next thing you know, he's played 50 games at short last year. And now he's a key part of that team. So you try to share those thoughts with those players when they get frustrated. The path for everybody is different, right? It's not, you don't get drafted and go to A-ball, AA, AAA big leagues, and then you're there. I mean, it's it's a different path for everybody, and each path is individual. It's unique. They may have injuries, they may have setbacks, they may get a taste, they may go back down. But if they stick with it, there's a path for everybody to get there.
Ed, we always know you're super busy, so when you stop by, it's much appreciated. Be well. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, Chris, take care.
Ed Sprague with us here, A's Cast Live.